So, Pete Buttigieg has now given us a preview of his line of attack against Bernie Sanders. Let's see what that is.
The mobilization that's going on. You look at the Women's March, which is important, not just in its scale and scope, but in its style. I think this is the thing that's overlooked. Angry liberals don't really win hearts and minds, at least not where I'm from. I didn't get 80% of the vote in my reelection by being angry.
So that's it. That's the veiled shot at Bernie. That's what he's going to do moving forward. By the way, he and his campaign, they're totally convinced that they're viable now. So they're going to start politicking the shit out of this race. I've never seen more fawning coverage for any candidate, and that includes of Kamala and all the others, even Beto. I've never seen as much fawning coverage for Buttigieg in the past, however long it's been, 3 weeks since he's become, the guy that the media loves. I've never seen more fawning coverage than I have for him in the past few weeks. And just for the record here, it's a concerted strategy. Obama did the same thing, by the way. Obama in 2008, it was tactical on his part. He made sure to kiss the ass of the corporate media journalists who were on the campaign trail with him, because he knew that if they like me, they will write nonstop positive things about me, even when I say things that might be wrong or mess up or whatever the case may be. It will always be framed in a positive light because they like me personally. So in other words, corporate media hosts are so biased personally that they can't be objective and say, okay, well, here are his policies. Here's how his policies line up with what the American people want. Here's why he might be bad, and here's why he might be inexperienced, or whatever the case may be. They're unable to do that if they like the guy personally, and that's what we're seeing now with Buttigieg. I mean, I tweeted out the picture the other day. He was just on the cover of the New York Magazine, and bright eyes, smiling face, looking up at the sky. And the title said something like, "Why not Pete?" It's literally almost like they're saying, anybody but Bernie, how about this guy? That's what it is. And now we're seeing this is the line of attack he's going to go with against Bernie. Now, yet again, I submit to you guys, that's the best they got? And the answer is yes. They have nothing. They have absolutely nothing. So what do? I don't know. New York Times runs the smear piece about how there's sexual harassment in this campaign. It's uniquely bad among Bernie. Meanwhile, there was sexual harassment in every campaign. But there were no smear articles trying to connect sexual harassment among low-level staffers who the people didn't even know. They didn't try to connect those dots. For Bernie, they did. Why? Trying to smear him. For Bernie, they just tried to smear him because he made a lot of money from selling his book. They try to say he's a hypocrite because he wants to tax the rich, and he has a couple $1,000,000 or whatever it may be. I don't think his followers care about that as much as you think they do, and that doesn't make him a hypocrite. Because if he was poor, you would call him bitter. Now that he's rich, you call him a hypocrite. You just don't want him talking about these actual left-wing policies because you don't want them implemented. Again, smear campaign. That's what this is. So now, Buttigieg, this is the best line of attack he has. Angry liberals don't win. Now, let's be clear about something. When he says liberal, he means leftist. He doesn't have that distinction. What he's trying to say is his left flank. He says, hey, man, listen, I'm the practical choice because being an angry liberal doesn't sell. It doesn't work. Now, is that actually true? Well, the answer is largely no, but there's a kernel of truth in what he's saying. What doesn't work is shaming people. What doesn't work is looking down on people, being condescending to people, telling them they're wrong and they're irredeemable. That definitely doesn't work. It is my opinion that also what doesn't work is the screeching over social issues. That doesn't mean that you can't be aggressive, and that doesn't mean you can't stand on principle and say, hey, here's my position and here's why I'm right. But it does mean you have to do it in a palatable way. And so there is such a thing as like an angry liberal who is insufferable and unbearable. So there is a kernel of truth in that. However, he is using this argument in the context of going after Bernie Sanders. And in the context of going after Bernie Sanders, he's dead wrong. Because that anger sells. Why does that anger sell? Because it's righteous. It's righteous anger. Bernie Sanders is angry because the system's broken. Bernie Sanders is angry because the entire system is corrupted by corporate money. Bernie Sanders is angry because 30 million Americans don't have health care. Bernie Sanders is angry because the minimum wage is not a living wage. Bernie Sanders is angry because we're bombing 7 different countries right this second. Bernie Sanders is angry because our infrastructure is crumbling and gets a grade of D+. Bernie Sanders is angry because half of workers in America make $30,000 a year or less. Bernie Sanders is angry because the top 1% has more wealth than the bottom 90% combined. Bernie Sanders is angry because the Walton family, 6 people, have more money than the bottom 45% of the country combined. Over 150 million people. So he's angry because he should be angry. Because it's correct to be angry at this shit. Now, I know your whole, me, bro? I'm a neoliberal centrist, and I'm above the fray, and I'm just here to talk about philosophy and stuff. I'm not really down with the whole policy thing. I'm not kidding. This is his actual position. He said it to Vice News. He's like, I think the problem with a lot of people on the left is that we care too much about policy, and what we got to do is really connect more at a values level and whatnot, and we got to be more philosophical and stuff. This is what he said. So I know, Mayor Pete, that you think you're above the fray, and you think, I'm just so intelligent and aloof that I'll just figure everything out once I'm there, but I'll just do it in a piecemeal way, where I appease corporate donors at the same time. I know that's where you are, but that's not where the country is. And this line of attack is not going to work. And go after him at your own peril. Because perhaps your 15 minutes of fame are just that, 15 minutes of fame, and everybody's going to see through you for what you are, which is an empty suit, self-aggrandizing narcissist. Originally said you were for Medicare for all, and now he's been backpedaling off that. Oh, Medicare for all, but keep the private insurance thing exactly as it is. Well, that's not Medicare for all. I'm sick of these frauds, man. I get it. You have a fucking giant ego, and you want to run the country, and you want to get the glory. I get it, dude. I get it. There are other things that are more important than your ego. So take your angry liberal argument and shove it, because you know what? Maybe that's the right thing to be in this context. If you're angry at the right things and you're on the left, if you're angry at the income inequality, you're angry at the corruption, you're angry at the lack of action on climate change, if you're angry at the right things, well, then that is 100% the rational response. And maybe your aloofness is actually just you being an asshole.